Hello, welcome to the channel where we have not one but two Lancia Deltas. The trick new one is from Maturo. It's a restomod of a sort from a company in the Netherlands which specialised in rallying because the Delta Integrale with a 2-litre turbocharged engine and four-wheel drive was a Group A homologation special. But Maturo has now branched out into trying to create the perfect road-going Delta 2. The Delta for the street as it should have been is how it sees things, but more on that later because first we have the other one owned by Autocar's own deputy road test editor Richard Lane. It's an unusual specification. It's a 1990 Integrale with an 8-valve engine but no catalytic converter. We're here to explore the nuances between these two cars, to see them in context and to judge whether Maturo has indeed created the perfect Integrale. First though, to the original, regarded as an all-weather supercar in its day, which is handy because these are perhaps the most miserable weather conditions in which we've ever conducted a video shoot.
The thing is with Integrales is, these days, if you try and drive it like it's a Fiesta ST, you've had it, because they don't like to be driven that way. They're mostly too soft, shells of it, sort of, nothing like the torsional rigidity.
Well, one, they didn't have it in the first place, and two, they fatigued over the last 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's night and day. So yeah, if you try and drive this like it's a Fiesta ST, you're not going to have much fun. You've got to sort of lean into its more GT credentials. 7 or 8 tenths, flow it, load it up into corners, maintain speed, gear up and get on the throttle early. That's kind of the way to enjoy these cars. I think each their own, obviously.
Right, so it has been, I don't know how many years since I drove an Integrale of any kind.
Can you remember what the last one was?
No. So the upshot is, I don't remember it having a dished wheel like this, which is really nice.
That is
good. Driving position's good in this, mate.
Confession, that's not the original wheel. So the original wheel looks very similar, but it isn't dished. And if you are, shall we say, of a Northern European stature, the driving position is quite challenging. So yeah, the dish just brings it out towards the wheel, out towards my chest a bit more. Completely, it was one of those small, easy wins that just transformed things immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy with where it is now. These seats, they kind of, I mean, they look great. You've got the Missoni fabric. It is so 80s. Yes, we will talk about secondary ride in a minute.
Yeah, let's get on
this
to
is
that.
on Sport Springs at the moment. It's not terrible, but it could be softer. Yeah, seats. Obviously, this doesn't have like the big Evo spec Recaros.
Yeah.
But they're nice and they're comfortable and they sort of do the job.
They're sort of quite flat, aren't they?
Very
well,
flat.
They're almost crowned, like the convicts, rather than
but you do perch on them.
Pillars are tiny. I can see the bonnet scoop. I can't quite see the edges of the bonnet, but it feels a compact, easy car. It's a decent driving environment, isn't it?
Cocktail sticks for A-pillars is something I love about this car. After testing, when I drive this, come back to it after having tested loads of modern cars, that's the first thing you notice.
You know this car really well, which is why I thought it was useful that I drove this and you drive the other one, because I will just be blown away by the Delta experience, because it's been I don't know how long. And you will be able to explore the nuances between the two that bit better than me. But it's great as a thing. Steers, I think, really quite nicely.
Hopelessly biased, but this is for me probably one of the top 3 assisted racks of all time. It's one of the reasons I love the car. I think at the moment the steering boss might actually be a little bit.
Don't tell me
there
that.
might be a bit of friction there. No,
okay,
too much friction.
Right.
So that's maybe potentially why it's not winding off quite so nicely.
Okay, yeah.
But that weight, that ebb and flow of weight is so nice. A couple of things about this car though. It's sort of OEM plus, and I mean that in the lightest way possible. I want it to feel very original, but it's got that underbody bracing in the front, which is why the turn-in is so crisp.
Oh, okay.
And that was another, along with the steering wheel, that was another light bulb moment after I had that fitted. It's quite a trick bit of design, not too expensive, but obviously very specific to this car. I had the turbo rebuilt, and that's now got modern internals, so the throttle response and pickup is that much better. So it's sort of 95% an original Integrale experience, just with a couple of things to tighten it up, and it's in a good place. Apart from that secondary ride, which this car, honestly, if you hit a pothole too hard, it will fire the radio faceplate into your face, which obviously isn't great when you're going down a B road in the wet. So I don't know. There might be a very expensive damper upgrade somewhere in the future. The not too immediate future, I must say. But if we could just get that sorted, I think this would be a really nice, honest Integrale experience, which is, again, I think what most people want from their Integrales, which is why it's going to be interesting to see if Maturo have sort of captured the essence of the car.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting all...
I know, you're getting full canker.
Yeah, I know, it's slightly unnecessary at this speed. But it feels... Oh, it's got some... I'm not revving it out because it's your car, but
no,
it feels...
Please do.
It feels like it's got a bit of boost. It winds up nicely. Gear shift is really nice. It doesn't...
That was a catalogue option, I think, from the Evo era. So this is a pre-Evo car, but you could spec one of those on your Evo, and it's a short shift. Yeah. The word short doing a lot of heavy lifting there because it's still quite long.
Yeah, but it does feel nice.
It's very easy and accurate. It's poly as well, this. And I think, that was an easy fix at the time because I needed, that when I got this, the bushes were slightly perished and all the subframe bushes needed replacing. And poly bushing was a nice, convenient answer, but I think it's probably not, if you were really gonna think about it and go full care and attention, you'd probably choose something else. I think they're a little bit too firm. Yeah,
I do hear engineers say that about poly bushing. Sometimes they go, "Oh no, for a road car, it's just it's too much." It's really nice though, mate. I'm really enjoying it. I
think as long as it's a car you can just sort of easily get in and enjoy, and also
that ride.
But it's worse than it.
I feel bad every time we go over something like because I don't quite see it, and I think, oh, that doesn't look too bad, and then all of a sudden, bang, whack! You think, oh, bloody hell!
You can apologise if we lose a radio faceplate, but until that point,
I'm all right.
Everything's forgiven. Let's not forget, this car was an absolute sensation when it arrived. I might have not been around at the time, but I've got the 1980, I think it's a 1988 Autocar, where the front cover is this versus a Testarossa. And this wins. I mean, it's just ludicrous. Okay, there's some poetic license going on there. I can't remember who wrote it, but how can you resist that sort of history? And we did a test with this and Audi Quattro, I think, up in the Alps as well. Yeah. This one as well. So I mean, serious pedigree.
All right. Well, let's try the Maturo. I want you to drive it. I want you to see how blown away you are by it. I have driven it a bit and I like it a lot. But and then I think we'll conclude. Maybe I'll ask you whether money no object, you'd have it all done.
Maturo takes a later Evo Integrale as the basis for its Stradali. It strips the car back to bare metal, sorts any corrosion if there is some, there usually is, before adding 250 welds and integrated roll cage carbon fibre body panels, if you like, this one has them, with some lovely subtle exterior details that it's hard to tell apart from the original unless you look rather closely. The 2-litre engine is rebuilt with a steel head gasket, steel conrods, forged pistons, a wider timing belt, Garrett T3 turbocharger and much more. Besides, there are upgraded viscous couplings for the four-wheel drive system and rebuilt limited slip differentials, and the maximum power one could spec is higher than in this car, which was running a prototype gearbox, so Maturo had limited engine output to just 360 horsepower and 369 foot-pounds. You can go much higher. Like most resto mods, the hours spent in build are long, and the price therefore fearfully expensive, from £370,000, including the original car. But the detail is really impressive, as Richard and I are about to find out inside.
And I'd say this is right at the sharp end of...
Yeah. So they...
But they've kept the original dash.
Well, that's
what's
nice
so
thing.
lovely.
Yeah,
and look
exactly.
at this. This is absolutely arrow straight. I've never seen an Integrale with where the top of the dash is perfectly straight. Doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. So they've done quite well there. Because this is the original.
These door handles are the same shape as the original door handles,
yeah,
but billet aluminium.
So once you get over the shock of the place and the driving position and the smell of suede, there's a lot of sort of familiar little...
Have you seen how nicely integrated this cage is? So it's got two crosses in the roof.
I know. This is the same gearbox? If it is, we'll go backwards now.
Yes, it is, yeah. Right, there we go.
Rather than stalling.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Okay, where's the window switch though?
Well, that's your window switch.
Okay, so they've migrated.
Which is nice actually, but mine is
that is lovely.
Mine is not working.
Really quite inventive as
it's
well.
Good,
okay.
I love this. I really like this dash design because it's hard to do bespoke stuff and get it to feel as good as new OEM stuff.
It's
because
pretty,
they don't exist.
It's pretty convincing, this thing. All right, here we go. Wow.
It's quite fizzy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of boost. Already, I'm using absolutely bugger all throttle. I love the fact that they've kept the original indicator stalks.
I like those a lot, actually.
They're actually to Ferrari 288 GTO spec. That was the era though where Fiat was just sharing everything.
Just use it.
I love it. Yeah. I think, you know, the damping, this car is brittle and it's got that sort of slight sense of reactivity, but it's not got the feeling that it's about to fall apart around your ears, which mine does.
No, it's got an extraordinary stiffness to the shell, hasn't it? It's really rigid.
This is a really serious bit of kit. Ooh. The sophistication of the damping there, we just went through just over a crest and it just landed. 911 GT3-esque. Pedals are really positive as well. All the controls are lovely. Yeah. They haven't buggered around with the rack too much either.
They do offer a quicker rack, which they call the Sainz rack. Because Carlos Sainz, when he had one, he liked a faster steering rack than the other drivers.
No, this is good. I don't know. Maybe this feels nothing like my car really, but there's obviously a big fundamental synergy because I instantly feel completely at home in here. This is brilliant. So they've kept the torque split pretty similar, 53% to the back. But I think by messing around with the geometry and the roll centers, they can make these things really very oversteery.
Yeah, he said so Zion who does it says if you they've tested one with sort of a bit of toe out on the rear and you can set it up in a kind of third gear slight dab of oppo slides. It's this stuff I'm interested in where it goes over crests like this and just bang, it's just set straight.
It doesn't need a second bite of a cherry, whereas mine's actually pretty well set up at the moment in terms of its vertical control, but it feels like a complete donkey compared to this. So they're chalk and cheese, totally different driving experiences, and yet they are the same. I think it's fantastic, honestly. I don't know, I've done a lot of talking, Matt. I mean, how do you feel from the passenger seat?
It feels that I don't want to say directionally unstable because it's not, but it feels quite agile as we go over stuff and things like that. It feels like we're sort of rotating around the middle in a way that in yours it doesn't quite feel like that. These dampers are really trick, but they could do with another layer of comfort just because UK roads are so bad and Dutch roads where it's been set up are so good.
Fair comment. I'd probably go...
This is a terrible road.
This is an awful road. It's been a brilliant road to test, but an awful road. I don't begrudge it. It's sort of slightly uncompromising setup. This is... because I guess the guy who has this, the guy or girl who owns a Maturo Stradali probably has an Evo, a standard one in the garage as well, because they're complete Integrale fanatics. Yeah. This isn't as easy to drive or live with as an actual well-sorted original Integrale, and you just sort of have to accept that. So you've got to go in and treat it as a really specialist and serious bit of kit.
So, all the money, your car. I'm sure I say, well, Richard, we'll take it away, we'll do some stuff for you if you want. You know, we'll do bits and bobs, we'll tweak it, we'll do the whole thing, we'll do some of it. What are you going for?
It's It's a tricky one. I thought you were going to give me a number, a monetary figure to play with there, and I was going to say,
okay.
well, no, because it doesn't work. Because if you've got 300 grand, it's like, well, my car costs about the same as the brakes cost on this car, less than 10%. So that's a complete non-starter. You just have both. But if it was only one car, as much as I love this, I love my Lancia for its authenticity, and I think if I wanted, for this kind of money, I'd probably buy, and I'm sorry for being such a bloody cliche here, I'd keep my car and buy a 911 GT3. Most predictable thing you'll hear all day. I'm so sorry. But in a way, this car does have that sort of sense of electric focus and tightness that a GT3 does.
You're absolutely right. This feels like a GT3 version of your car.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and an updated one at the same time.
And for that, I just endlessly love it. I just don't love it quite enough. Wouldn't love it quite enough to forsake my own car, which I think is, I don't know, it's just a bit of an artifact. It goes back to that old thing about being able to jump in with crap, candles for headlights and go for a drive and feel like it's 1988. In terms of execution of the concept, this is really difficult to fault. And the quality of the finish as well is, dynamically, it feels really well sorted. It's that balance, that resistance to understeer, incredible body control. It's not even rattling and creaking as much as I thought it would. All of that's brilliant. So the execution's fabulous.
So be in no doubt that the Maturo Delta is one of the finest resto mods we've ever driven, even if, understandably, you couldn't convince Richard to give up his own car for it. But for more on the Maturo and other resto mods, find us over at autocar.co.uk or at themagazineshop.com. Until next time, cheerio.